Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your first time watching. Yes, it's been a while since I've recorded anything. There will be no reactions or anything today. This is kind of a little bit off the cuff, a little bit different than what I normally do, and I won't be really talking about why I haven't been doing reactions or when I'm coming back. I do have some ideas, but finding the motivation and the time, a little bit hard for me these days. But I've been really getting into reading again, and so I wanted to kind of go through and talk about Leviathan Wakes. So, yeah, my Expanse friends and brethren, my Rossi crew, yeah, I read Leviathan Wakes, and so I kind of want to give my thoughts about the book itself, you know, how I enjoyed it compared to the TV series, what I liked or didn't like about it, coming from a TV series watcher before reading the book, and I'm sure those of you who read the book first have different thoughts and ideas about how it compares to the series, so I want to kind of dive into that, kind of give you guys my little book review on it, and to kind of give you some context into my experience with sci-fi books. Dune is my biggest, best sci-fi fantasy series of all time. I love Dune. It's my favorite book of all time, and obviously I'm sure you guys have seen the most recent movie that came out with Timothy Chalamet, and it's just, I love that series, so that's kind of where I'm coming from as far as my love of sci-fi. One of the other books that kind of like got me into sci-fi was a book called Gateway by Frederick Pohl, and it's part of this Heechee saga, and it's an interesting take on space travel and humanity at, you know, a future time. So those are kind of the two books that kind of raised me in the sci-fi genre. Obviously, I'm a big fan of fantasy as well. Love Tolkien, love Brandon Sanderson. I just read The Way of Kings, Mistborn series. So if you're interested in a thoughts review of Way of Kings, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll maybe upload that too. Just recently read that as well. So yeah, so that's kind of my history into sci-fi and where I'm coming from with Leviathan Wakes. Haven't read books like Foundation series, Asimov, which I know I should. Maybe some later date I'll be interested in doing that. But yeah, so let's talk about Leviathan Wakes. So I was gifted this at about the end when I was watching the last of the series. So I think it was Christmas, not this past year, but the year before. I got it as a gift. And obviously, having just finished the series at that point, I didn't really want to go into reading the book. I want to give myself some time to reflect on the series and kind of refresh my mind and kind of come into this a little bit differently with some new eyes and perspectives. So beginning of the year, I've read this in less than a month. It's about 550 plus pages. So yeah, it's a big book, but I really enjoyed it. It's different than the show, and I'll kind of go into that in a little bit, but just talking about the book first, I think what Ty Frank and his writing partner do really well is kind of keeping the action at the forefront. And one of the ways they do that, which is probably one of my favorite parts of how they write, especially in this book, is the chapters are short and concise. Not necessarily like super short, but they're about 10 to 15 pages. And I think I was reading an interview where they were talking about how he wanted to keep it like that, because I've read books, even like the Brandon Sanderson books, where you get to chapters that are like 50 to 80 plus pages, and all you want to do is you want to relax, read a chapter before you go to bed, and you're sitting there for 30 plus minutes to an hour reading a chapter of a book because it's so long. So I really liked how kind of concise and minimal the chapters were. They pack a lot of information in there and they get to the point, so it's really, really good to kind of keep your mind engaged. They give you just enough information about the characters and the setting to kind of describe what's going on, but they let you make up your own mind about like full details and stuff. They kind of talk about, Miller's hat and his length of body because he's a Belter, but that's, they don't go into full like, oh, he's 5'7" and this is and then that. So I really enjoy kind of being able to gauge my own thoughts and about them. Of course, coming from the TV show, that's a little different with my thoughts on how the characters looked in there. But if I were reading this from the first point without having any knowledge of the TV show, I would have enjoyed that aspect of it. some books, even like Lord of the Rings, when I read that, and I love that book, sometimes it describes things way too much, and I'm just like, can we get on with the plot and the story? So yeah, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed how the chapters were laid out. It does what a lot of books these days do, like Stormlight Archive, Game of Thrones. They kind of tell it from the perspective of a character, not necessarily first person, but the chapters are centered on individual characters. So one is on Holden, the other is on Miller, and it kind of goes back and forth, which I really like. So yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts on the book itself. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to read the rest of the series for sure, just to kind of see how it compares to the show. And if you're interested in my thoughts on the books going forward after Leviathan Weeks, please let me know in the comments, and I'll try and keep up with that as well. So yeah, let's kind of talk about the differences. So one of the first things I noticed was there's no Avasarala. Like, her character is just not in the books. Like, they don't focus on Earth at all in the books, other than the little bit with at the end with the ship that's kind of the Ravi, I think is what it is. Like, that's literally almost all Earth we get. So having watched the series and fallen in love with Avasarala and her character, I was like very bummed that she wasn't in this book. And don't tell me if she's in future books, because I want that to be a surprise of when she pops in. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that makes the TV show slightly better than the book, in my opinion, is just kind of how they were able to bring forth maybe probably characters from later seasons into the first season. And with the writers being such a part of that, I think that maybe was, their thought of like, well, the book is its own thing, and it's concise and it's set up that way. But with a larger universe and having it be a TV show, you don't want to just have it be Miller's perspective and then Holden's perspective, and that's it. That gets boring as a TV show. So I totally understand why they brought her in and why they kind of expanded the universe and brought in some more characters earlier on. Even the OPA leader from series, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's barely in the book as well, and I think he had a more prominent story in season 1 as well, and definitely future seasons. Fred, I think, was actually in the book more than he was in the TV show, which was interesting. So yeah, the differences in how they kind of represented that was very interesting to kind of read through. It definitely didn't take away from the book at all. I really enjoyed it, how it was represented, but I did kind of miss seeing those little things with Avasarala and her, torturing the Belter or kind of like doing her politicalness. And you really don't get that aside from some stuff with Fred in the book. So that I think is one of the ways that the TV show definitely stands above at least the first book, in my opinion. And I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on, if you read the book first, how you feel about the TV show and the addition of those characters. Like, was it jarring to you? Do you agree with me where having those future characters in the first season helped a lot? So yeah, that definitely was kind of the crux for me, was having those characters not be there. But and I think there are a few things that are slightly different in the books, but it was really hard to tell. There was some Julie stuff that I think was different. Jules Pierre Mao, I'm totally butchering that name, but Julie's dad, I think, is definitely more prominent in the TV show, and they definitely lend it to more of like him and his responsibility towards the whole proto-molecule situation, and I definitely like that in the TV show better. I mean, they do kind of leave it open-ended in the book, which hopefully in the later books they kind of get more information on, but yeah. I also didn't like that the goo was brown. Like, having watched the TV show and the cool little blue effects of the proto-molecule, I just wanted to imagine that blue, and it was described as brown. And I don't know why James S.A. Corey, Ty Franken and his partner, decided that the goo was brown of all the different types of colors you could choose from, which possibly why they decided to go with blue in the show. But yeah, so that was definitely interesting difference there. One of the things that actually got me was obviously Miller in the TV show is my favorite character. He maintained my favorite character throughout the entire series, and some characters like Amos kind of rose through the ranks a bit once Miller, passed away and everything. But in the books, Holden I think is my more favorite character. Like I like Holden in the books better than Holden in the TV show, and I like Miller in the TV show better than Holden in the books. And I don't know if that has to do with the actors and how they portrayed it, or the writing, or a combination of both. But that was just kind of my thought and opinion. So I'm interested if you guys had a different favorite character in the book than you did the TV show from reading it. So yeah, overall, wonderful book. The differences are definitely there, but they don't detract or take away from either form of media. So if you're interested in reading Leviathan Wakes, I know I kind of went into spoilers, but definitely I recommend the book. Thank you for joining me for this little book review and thought session on The Expanse, and good to see you guys. So let me know if you had differing thoughts about the book down in the comments below, and if you want me to do more book reviews on The Expanse or other sci-fi books like Stormlight Archive and stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will catch you with the next video.